Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. "10 Feet Tall and Bulletproof, Part 2. A few days and nights passed before we mustered up any desire to return to the park. We scoped out the area when we did, and seeing no one, we sat by the edge of the lake, trying to take in the peace of the night. This far into the park, traffic was muted, and for a while we felt at ease as we always had, basking in the tranquility. Lying on our backs, we looked at the sky. Neither of us spoke much. We simply breathed in the spectacle of the stars. To our surprise, spotlights from helicopters overhead swept the park, thoroughly searching for someone.
Jeez, we just wanted to come here to have some fun. Don't tell me some lunatic is on the loose. You don't think it's that guy we saw, do you?
Garrett paused and thought for a moment. Could be. He looked nervously around. The helicopters left, and soon peace settled into the area once more. We sat watching the stars when we heard a splash on the other side of the pond. At first, we assumed it was a large bass jumping. They frequently fed on insects along the surface of the lake, and one time, we even watched a duck dragged under the water by a huge bass. Then we noticed that the waterfowl had skittered towards our side of the lake, so we looked across to the other bank to see what startled them. In the moonlight, we saw the man, sickly, white, and naked, crouching on his knees. He leaned forward and sipped water from the shallow lake near the shore. Garrett and I froze, unable to move or speak or even breathe. Then the man stood, and we saw that it was no man at all.
"What is that thing?"
I whispered.
"Look at how much taller it is than the sign."
We watched in horror as the creature stood upright, towering over the green and white sign advertising visitors not to litter. That sign has to be at least 6 feet tall. That thing is 3 or 4 feet taller than the sign. I've never seen a man that tall. The moonlight reflected off the creature's filmy white skin, and we noticed its large eyes staring back at us. We instinctively flinched at the sight. The sound of helicopters returned, and the creature trotted back to the cover of the trees.
"Let's get out of here, Garrett."
Once again, we hopped on our bikes and frantically pedaled home. We sat quietly on the couch once we made it into our house. And for a while, we couldn't even form words to talk about what just happened. Finally, I spoke.
"Do you think that thing is what the helicopters were looking for?"
"It has to be, Ty. I've never seen anything like that before."
"What do you think it is?"
"I don't know. It looks like..."
"What?"
"One of those aliens in the books we've been reading. Thin, white, big black eyes."
"Are you thinking what I'm thinking?"
Garrett smiled at me with that crooked grin of his. "I am, little brother. I think we need to go back there, but we need to be better prepared." We put our heads together and planned our next moves. Were we crazy? Maybe. We were 2 bored kids with little supervision and vivid imaginations. That night, we collected items we thought might help us when we ventured out the following night to find the creature. Mom's camera, ski masks. Why we thought those would help we didn't know, and in the end we never used them. As well as snacks and a few kitchen knives went into a duffel bag we'd take with us. We barely slept due to a combination of fear and exhilaration. My brother and I had conjured science fiction stories for months, and now here we were with a real-life adventure of our own. Sleep fought our imaginations, and our imaginations won. Mom noticed we seemed groggier than normal the next morning before she headed to work.
"You boys aren't getting sick, are you? You're practically falling asleep over your waffles."
"No, Mom, we're fine. We had stomach aches last night, so I don't think either of us slept very well. We're better this morning, though. Isn't that right, Ty?"
"Yeah, Mom. You don't need to worry about us. Go, have a good day at work. We're fine. Just a little sleepy, but we're fine."
She gave each of us a kiss and a hug as she headed out the door. asking us to call her if either one of us became violently ill while she was away. We assured her we would and hoped we didn't seem overly eager for her to leave the house. We anxiously waited at home until late afternoon, then rode our bikes to the park lake. We sat eating snacks and plotting our strategy. We need to find a good hiding spot. I'm guessing the helicopters will be back again tonight. I think they know it's here somewhere. If you think about it, he didn't come out until after the helicopters left last night. And when he heard them coming back, he scampered off to the woods again. Yeah, we need to find a place to hide that won't scare him off. We don't want to be seen by the helicopters either. If they see two kids out here with an alien creature roaming around, they'll make us leave. They would call Mom, too. Our blood ran cold. Neither of us wanted the cops calling her at work for a lot of reasons. First of all, it would go against our credo to never do anything that drew the attention of the authorities. The fact that we were on our own was our family's business and not theirs. If the cops were involved, Mom could be in trouble and we could be taken away. That thought scared us far more than anything the alien could do to us. Secondly, Mom could be in trouble at work. The casinos had an uneasy relationship with law enforcement, and her bosses wouldn't appreciate it if the police called or stopped by. Nearly as bad as being discovered alone by the police was the possibility of Mom losing her job. She didn't make much, and she worked a hellacious amount of hours, but it kept a roof over our heads and food on the table. She'd be devastated if she lost her job. Thirdly, we didn't want to miss out on a possibility of coming in contact with the creature. No way would the police allow us to watch the show if they caught it. We didn't want to hurt it or draw the attention of the cops to the alien. As far as we knew, it probably meant no harm, and we knew better than to help the police track it down. Maybe it wasn't exactly an example of performing our civic duty, but we were street smart enough to know we shouldn't be bringing trouble to someone else. Or something else. As night fell, we stashed our bikes behind the building containing the public restrooms, then hid behind a clump of trees to the right of the lake. From there, we were hidden, but the area where we saw the alien was visible to us. As we predicted, once darkness set in, the helicopters and their searchlights swarmed overhead. We held our breaths and hoped they didn't find the creature. I can't help but think, Ty, that when they find him, they're going to kill him. The thought gave me a catch in my throat and I swallowed hard. He hasn't done anything to anyone, at least not that we know of. I know, but grown-ups don't always care about things like that. He's different and an alien, and they'll kill him then run tests on his body. It seemed hardly fair in my mind, and I knew the situation bothered Garrett too. I shook my head and muttered, "Grown-ups do some of the dumbest things." Garrett nodded, and we crouched down to stay out of the glare of the spotlights. Finally, they moved off to search the surrounding areas. We trained our eyes on the tree line, and just as he had the night before, we watched as the alien crept out of the woods and crouched by the lake for a drink of water. Slowly, we walked, bent over, using the curve of the land to help us skirt the backside of the lake where the alien knelt. Our eyes widened and our hearts raced as we realized we were about to make actual contact with a being from another planet. Garrett quietly pulled Mom's camera out and snapped photos once we reached a distance of 20 yards or so from the creature. We hadn't anticipated the terror our camera's flashbulb would cause the alien. A shriek took us by surprise, and the creature shielded his eyes from the glare. Cowering at the edge of the lake, it visibly shook. We stood, knowing our cover was already blown. No sense in hiding now. Hello? We don't want to hurt you. I'm Garrett. This is my brother Tyler. Hi, Mr. Alien. Don't be afraid of us. We just want to meet you. The creature covered its head with long bony arms, and its elongated fingers wrapped around its head as though it wanted to hide in the wide open. It let out another shriek as we gained ground and moved within a few feet of it. Garrett knelt on the ground in front of it. We want to talk with you. We won't hurt you. He reached out his hand and gently patted the sickly white arm closest to him. See, we want to be friends. I followed my brother's example and sat on the ground by him. We know it must be scary to be alone in a new place. Garrett and I are alone a lot. We understand. We doubted he knew what we said, but we were pretty sure he relaxed the more we spoke to him. We kept our voices low, calm and reassuring, and after a while, he pulled his hands from his head and lowered his arms. His breathing slowed, and he didn't make the wheezing sound we guessed was a sign of fear anymore. Neither of us said much after that. We simply sat with the creature and soaked in the experience. Maybe an hour passed, we weren't sure, but full darkness was in effect, and we offered the alien a few of our snacks. He wasn't interested in eating them, but he did rub the food in his pale white hands as though the texture fascinated him. We assumed he was male, but there was no way of knowing for sure. Something masculine about his jawline perhaps caused us to believe so. We most likely felt more comfortable believing we sat a foot away from a naked male alien rather than a naked female one. We were, after all, 11 and 13, and we were far from comfortable with girls in general, let alone one from outer space. We made progress, we thought, when he reached out his hands and touched our skin, patting us as Garrett had the alien. Other than the shrieks he'd made at the flash of the camera and the earlier wheezing, he made no other sounds. We were content with that. We occasionally told him about ourselves, that we attended school and that we lived with our mom. If he did understand what we said, his impression of life on Earth was most likely skewed by our adolescent perspective, but at least the interactions were friendly. Then we heard it. The unmistakable chop, chop, chop of the helicopter blades approached. The glare of the spotlights came down on us, and one or more of the men on the copters opened fire, not concerned with the fact that 2 human boys were in the line of fire. We would have been no more than collateral damage. The police or military or whoever they were had their sights set on capturing the alien, dead or alive. To our shock, the creature stood, unfolding its lanky body and legs to stand upright. Grabbing us by the arms, he pulled us behind him and shielded us from the bullets, practically dragging us with him into the trees. The bullets had to strike him. So many rained down on us they couldn't miss him, but nothing penetrated his skin. Once inside the woods, he leaned over and peered down at us. Embracing us in his long arms, he held us for a moment, then motioned for us to flee. The look in his eyes told us that we couldn't put ourselves in danger any longer. We slowly backed away, but the sound of approaching footsteps frightened us. Looking back once more, we bolted. Nothing was mentioned on the news the next day or the day after that. Nothing was ever said, and we have no idea what happened to our celestial visitor. Did he escape? Was he captured? Was he killed? We never knew. Garrett and I are adults now. Both of us have had successful careers, and we take care of our mother, who we believe suffered enough hardship in her life. After we became adults, we confided in her what happened that night in the neighborhood park. She believed us. Before now, we've told no one else. On dark, peaceful nights, however, when we see a shooting star or the sky seems especially inviting, we think of the time we met him. We choose to remember him with a smile, and we hope he made his way safely home.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Into the Night Anthology podcast, written by Caroline Giammanco, narrated by Nari, theme music by Nico Rodriguez. You can find our links in the show notes. Into the Night is on your favorite podcatcher, so make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review to help other excursionists to join us. I'll see you next time, and remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths lead you into the night.